So there's a saying from way back in the 1500s that goes, "A fool and his money are soon parted." Which I guess just goes to show you that people have been spending money on dumb stuff for hundreds, if not thousands of years. But not today, my friend, because you're about to see 10 trendy things that everyone and their mother is doing their absolute best to convince us we must have. But I'm here to tell you that I'm not going to be buying right now, and I want to de-influence you from buying as well. Or at the very least, to give you a little bit of food for thought to help you slow down and be more intentional if and when you do make a purchase. And trust me, the reason that I'm not buying these viral products isn't because I hate fun or pretty things, but rather because I've witnessed firsthand how a lot of these so-called must-haves have been quietly draining our wallets, cluttering up our homes, and creating more waste than they're worth for years. But first, a quick disclaimer before we dive in. If you want, own, or love any of the things that I mentioned in this video, that's totally okay. Because even though I might joke about spending money on dumb stuff, I know we're all different people with our own unique interests, values, and goals. And this video isn't meant to be judgmental. It's about de-influencing you and honestly myself as well, so that we can be more mindful about what we're spending our hard-earned money on and bringing into our homes and lives. So with that being said, let's dive into the first thing that I'm not buying on this list, which is anything that comes in blind boxes. And two blind box products that I've been seeing going viral recently that come to mind are the Labubu dolls and the Le Creuset mystery boxes. So just in case you live under a rock and you haven't heard about any of these things lately, Labubu dolls are basically these ugly little collectible dolls that come in boxes, and when you open the boxes, you don't know what's going to be inside, and they originally retail for around $30, but because of the hype that's built up around these Labubu dolls and videos that people have been sharing about unboxing them and either being excited about getting exactly the doll that they want, and other people going crazy and throwing tantrums if they don't get the dolls that they want, that's been really driving up the price of these Labubu dolls. And now it's gotten to the point where something that originally cost maybe around $30, some people are buying and reselling for thousands of dollars on resale websites. And then the Le Creuset mystery boxes were being sold at the Le Creuset factory to table sale, where you would buy a ticket and you would go in and you would get a box that was going to be full of items, and you didn't know what items were going to be inside. You didn't know what kinds of items, if it's going to be cups or trays or braziers, and you also didn't know the color of the items. And some people would get mismatched boxes with lots of different colors, and some people would get boxes where all of the colors matched. And the problem with these viral products isn't really the item itself, it's just the whole culture surrounding it. And this thrill of the hunt mindset not only promotes compulsive shopping, but it's also been criticized as a gateway to gambling. And in fact, it's really like gambling itself. Because if you think about it, the anticipation of not knowing what you're going to get and spending money on that thing, and then the dopamine hit that you get from either getting what you want or not winning, and then building the anticipation up again to go try again and again and again until you do get what you want, kind of becomes this hedonic treadmill where you're always chasing the excitement from buying and buying and buying again and again. And again, I'm not here trying to judge anyone for wanting these items. And in fact, I even own a Le Creuset myself. But the difference is that before I bought my Le Creuset, I did a ton of research into the style of pot that I wanted and the size of the pot that I wanted and the color that I wanted, so that I knew I would be satisfied with that purchase. Which 100% worked, because I am absolutely satisfied and I know that it's something that I can own for years and years and years. And along with that satisfaction comes the relief from not having to crave to buy more things because I already have enough. And I also don't need the financial burden of having to spend more money. So if you want to buy one of these items, I would say do your research and figure it out exactly what it is that you want and spend money to buy exactly that thing instead of gambling and letting chance decide what you're going to get. Next up on this list, we have the Bog Bag. And this is something that I think that I was interested in before it even became super viral and popular. And that was around 2 years ago when we moved back to the USA from Germany. And I saw this bag while I was getting some swimming stuff at Dick's Sporting Goods. And I thought to myself, wow, that is a really cute bag. But then I have to admit that when I looked at it, I got complete sticker shock from the price of that thing. And I think that I saw that they were selling bags at Target for $100 after that, with the Target branding logo on it, which is insane. So it was definitely one of those things that I was really attracted to when I saw it because I thought it looked super practical. The fact that it would stand upright on its own because it had a very solid structure, and that would also make it easy to clean, say from sand that got inside of it, or from liquid or snacks that maybe got kind of spilled at the bottom. But I think that there's other aspects that I didn't like and that maybe a lot of people haven't thought of when they're purchasing this bag. So for example, having a pocket where you could put your phone and wallet and keys inside so that they're not visible and easily accessible from a bag that's open at the top. And of course, because the Bog Bag is thinking, how can I solve this problem for these people? Then of course, they've created all of these accessories that you can add to your Bog Bag to make it more practical. So they have a carrying case for your phone. And they also have things like dividers that you can use to, say, put in your water bottle in one space and your kids' swimming fins in another space. But then, of course, all of those accessories mean that you have to spend even more money on that bag. And if you're anything like me, chances are that you already have a bag that can function just as well, if not better, than that bag. So for my example, I'd like to introduce you to this 10-year-old beach bag that I got from Target years and years ago. And in fact, we just went to Florida on vacation and I took this bag with me. And inside of this bag, I put things like our old picnic blanket that we used to spread out on the beach and sit on, my kids' swim fins and goggles. And then I was also able to use the zipper pouches to keep things like sunscreen and the inside pocket to safely store away my phone so that I know that people aren't seeing it and kind of scoping it out to steal on the beach. As you might expect, after 10 years of regular use, our beach bag is getting a little worn out around the edges, but I still love it and it still functions just as well as it did when I first bought it all those years ago. So before you let anyone influence you into buying that trendy Bog Bag, I would encourage you to first take a look around your home and see what you already have that could serve the same function. Number 3 on this list, we have peeling lip stains. And I think that these are tempting on so many levels because not only are they visually satisfying where you're watching a pretty girl put these high contrast lip colors on her lips and then peel it off, but then they're also satisfying in a tactile way, the same way that a lot of people feel super satisfied when they watch pimple popping videos, which are surprisingly popular on TV and social media nowadays. And seeing these peeling lip stains was an important reminder for me how important it is to notice when things are triggering our own personal insecurities, which for me is my thin lips. Ever since I was way back in like 6th grade in middle school, and a girl in my class looked at me and shrieked, and keep in mind, this was in the 1990s where one of the hottest women in the world was Pamela Anderson, and her lips looked like this. And I used to buy tons and tons of lipsticks and lip liners trying to compensate for my thin lips. But I was finally able to let go of my insecurity over my lips years and years ago, and I honestly haven't worn lipstick since. Actually, what I do is I buy a big tub of Aquaphor and then I put a small amount into one of these little travel size containers. And then I just keep this in my bathroom and I keep this with me throughout the day or put it in my purse if I'm on the go instead of using lip stains or lipsticks. So basically, if you already have lip products that you love, don't feel like you have to jump on the hype train and go out and buy these fancy peeling lip stains just because every influencer on your For You page is recommending them. Next up, number 4 on this list is red light therapy masks. And I feel like every time I open my phone lately, there's yet another ad for red light therapy masks staring me down. And sometimes they're not even ads that catch my attention. Like, for example, the other day I saw this video of a mom sitting on the couch talking to her daughters who were telling her this very intense story, but they were laughing and couldn't take her seriously because she was asking questions with this glowing red light therapy mask on her face. And the thing about this is you start seeing regular people just like you and me using these things, and you start to think, hey, maybe I should get that as well. And as a 42-year-old woman, I totally get the appeal. They promise fewer wrinkles, better skin tone, and a nice healthy glow without you having to leave the comfort of your own home. But here's the thing, these masks can cost hundreds of dollars, and the science on them is still pretty mixed at this point. And another problem that I've noticed with this product is that because it's so popular, a lot of people have been jumping on trying to sell this item. And in some of those cases, they might be drop shippers or even scammers who have questionable research and motives that are trying to sell you these items. And this is something that actually happened to us recently, and I mentioned in this video, which is that we were victims of what's called a brushing scam on Amazon, where people will send their products to your address and then claim that they ordered those products themselves so that they can write themselves positive reviews on Amazon. And one of the things that we got sent was a light therapy mask that came in 3 different colors, and it didn't have any brand on it. So I was looking at this thing and I was thinking, I don't even feel like I can donate this because I don't know what it's going to do to people's faces. So before we all rush out to buy the latest miracle gadget, here's a quick reminder that it's always a good idea to do research into the product and the company that's selling that product before you make that purchase. And in the case of things like skincare routines, it's always a good idea to check in with a dermatologist before starting any new skincare regimen, because great skin shouldn't have to come with a side of buyer's remorse. Number 5 on this list is the Weck jar, and this is something that's been going super viral lately. I guess because they're so photogenic, Pinterest perfect, and look good in videos when you do everything from make your morning coffee to make mason jar salads to things like overnight oatmeal. And I have to confess, I've been really tempted to buy myself some Weck jars as well, and I even wrote about it back in June in my impulse spending journal. But here's the thing, jars are jars. They all hold food, they all seal, and buying new ones just for aesthetics is basically clutter in disguise. I mean, if you think about it, not that long ago, regular mason jars were the hottest thing, and now we've moved on to Weck jars. So if you already own something like mason jars or some other kind of lidded jars that are working well, then there's no need to buy anything new. As for us personally, up until now, I've just been kind of using cereal bowls to make overnight oats and some other things. But the problem with that is then that I either have to cover it with a plate that can slide around or use something like clean wrap, which is kind of wasteful. So I would like to buy these perhaps in the future. However, what I'm planning on doing is holding off, and I'm betting that in a few months, people are going to move on to the next trend and start decluttering their Weck jars. So you better believe I'll be keeping an eye out at the thrift store and on my local Facebook marketplace and buy nothing groups, where I'll probably be able to get them for cheap, if not free. The next thing that I'm not buying on this list is the Ninja Slushie Machine. Now, this item is relatively new, and it was only released around a month ago, back on July 11th, which also coincided with National Slurpee Day, but it quickly went viral and spread all over the internet and social media. And because of its immense popularity and virality, it ended up selling out at many retailers shortly thereafter. I recently learned about this product while we were on vacation, and I was catching up on the news on my phone, and I came across the Ninja Slushie Machine being talked about, and I have to say I absolutely fell in love with the avocado green color. But what's funny is when I really started to think about it, I realized that I haven't drank a slushie in like 20 years or so. So what makes me think that I would need to have a machine specifically to make myself slushies now at this point? And I guess that if I wanted to play the devil's advocate with myself, I could say that I do have 2 young children who would probably enjoy drinking slushies. But the thing is, I already have a multi-purpose Ninja blender that has a food processor bowl and a blender bowl in various sizes that I could probably use to make a decent slushie should I feel motivated to do so. And what's funny is that this is actually the product that made me want to sit down and create this video that you're watching right now, because this is not the first time this year that I have been super tempted to buy a Ninja product. And in fact, in the impulse spending journal that I've been keeping as part of my low buy year, back in March, I was tempted to buy a Ninja creamy machine that I saw on sale at Costco. And I already de-influenced myself from buying that item. And now I have a brand new Ninja appliance to de-influence myself from buying. So if you're like me and you already own a blender or a food processor, there's probably no reason for you to buy this thing, and you can de-influence yourself from doing so. By the way, if you've made it this far and you're finding my content helpful or valuable, be sure and give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, so that you don't miss out on all of the helpful information that I share here each week around topics such as decluttering, minimalism, frugal living, and all of my best tips and tricks for spending less, saving more, and being frugal. Another trending topic that I wanted to touch on in this video is related to nonstop traveling, especially because it's the summer right now and a lot of people are interested in traveling to nice places, going to beaches. And in fact, we ourselves just got back from Florida. And while we really enjoyed going to the beach and paddleboarding and eating out together, one of the best things about the trip was the day that we came home. And I think that just getting older and learning from experience has helped us realize that we're more of homebodies who like to stay in the comfort and spaciousness of our own home. But like I said, especially in the summer, I see a lot of content that revolves around traveling as much as you can and spending months going to various places throughout Asia or Europe or wherever. But I've learned firsthand that sometimes when it comes to traveling, less is really more. And I think that it's important to remember that these travel influencers that are talking about all of their vacations and trips are getting paid to promote things like airfare and hotel stays and luggages and things that you need to pack your luggage. And so they are financially incentivized to try to sell you on this idea of traveling all the time. And all of those expenses, both big and small, can really add up. And especially if you're a homebody like me, you have to ask yourself, is all of that travel really what I want to be doing with my time and money? Number 8 on this list is anything and everything related to homesteading. So content that's marketed as homesteading and simple living has gotten super popular in recent years, and a lot of the accounts that you'll see talking about these topics romanticize such activities as raising chickens, making sourdough bread from scratch, and moving to quaint rural farms or cottages out in the countryside or mountains. And I have to say, as a content creator in the minimalism space, sometimes I've caught myself wondering if minimalism content is a gateway to homesteading and owning chickens. Because I have seen so many accounts either already moving towards homesteading or talking about how they want to do so. But as someone who recently moved into her first home after decades of living in apartments or condos, I have to say that it's a lot more work than I initially anticipated. And there's a lot of work that goes into maintaining a home that's on land. And that's just even talking about things like mowing your lawn and running the sprinklers and doing weeding, let alone trying to talk about building barns and raising goats and chickens. And lately, I've been seeing more and more homesteaders on social media talking about how the reality of homesteading was much more harsh than their expectations, and now they're to the point where they want out. And I think that it's important to remember that sometimes there's a disconnect between the life that you're seeing romanticized on social media and the reality of living it day to day. So for example, there was recently an article in the New York Times about a content creator called Ballerina Farm. And in the article, her husband talked about how sometimes his wife gets so ill from exhaustion from taking care of the kids and the homesteading and the cooking and whatnot, that she ends up bedridden for a week or so. When I was researching this video, I actually found several Reddit threads that talked about this very topic, and I thought that this one comment really hit the nail on the head when they said, I feel like homesteading influencers have an audience primarily of people who don't homestead. Social media tends to reward picture-perfect and idealized fantasies. People who daydream about homesteading find that type of fluff fulfilling. People who actually homestead need to know what slime is coating their tomato roots, how to get muck out of the cracks in their skin, and if they need to put the chicken in the crusty, swollen eyes down. Those things don't appeal to a visual medium in the same way morning tea and Hobbiton would. If you're interested in homesteading, I'm not saying that you have to give up on your dreams or forego any purchases related to homesteading, but what I am saying is that before you go through with any purchase, you should activate your critical thinking skills and give each item a reality check before you pull the trigger on buying, which is something that I actually talked about recently in a video about 25 micro habits for a no buy or low buy year that I will be sure to link up here for you as well as down in the description box below if you're interested in finding out more about how to do that. The ninth product on this list isn't a product at all, but rather a service, and that is the Netflix subscription. And this is a little bit ironic for me in particular because I actually canceled my Netflix subscription, I think it was back in March, after 10 years or so of being a loyal Netflix subscriber, because I was finding that we weren't watching things on it that much, and what we ended up doing was getting a DVD player instead and renting DVDs from the library. And so because we were renting DVDs from the library, I wasn't really missing my Netflix subscription at all until they came out with the movie K-pop Demon Hunters, which honestly looks so adorable. And I am someone who loves K-pop. I've been a K-pop fan since my Taiwanese roommate introduced it to me way back in college, like 20 years ago. I was also really interested in it because one of my favorite animes also happens to be Demon Slayer, or Kimetsu no Yaiba, if you want to go with the Japanese name. And not only did it mesh several of my special interests together, but then on top of that, it also went super viral on social media, and tons of people were making videos about the adorable little blue tiger and the dance that they do in the videos, and then showing dads dressing up as K-pop demon slayers with their daughters, which was so, so cute. So I think that between all of those things, my FOMO, or fear of missing out, really got activated. And so I was super tempted to jump on the bandwagon and reactivate my Netflix subscription. But then I reminded myself that I'm doing a low buy here and I've committed to not having that subscription to save money. And I have a DVD player that I can use to watch DVDs. And if I really want to watch it, I'm sure that in the future, I'll somehow have the opportunity to do so, whether that's because I will go to a friend's house and be able to watch it on her Netflix subscription there, or it'll come out on DVD or something. We'll see. And I think this not only applies to Netflix, but also other streaming services like Disney Plus or Hulu, where you really need to ask yourself if it's giving you enough value for the money that you're spending on it. And in our case, I couldn't say that that was true. And so that's why I was okay with letting go of my Netflix subscription. And finally, the last trendy thing I want to de-influence myself and you from on this list is anything related to summer-ween. And by the way, I am a girl who loves Halloween, like loves Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. I've talked about this many times, and I am so, so excited for Practical Magic 2 that's set to come out next year. But at the same time, I can't help but feel like brands and influencers are going too far with all of these crazy made-up holidays. I mean, at this point, why not make every single day a holiday, right? Now, I only heard about Summerween recently myself, but apparently it originated way back in 2012 when the concept was introduced in a show called Gravity Falls with the idea of celebrating Halloween in the summer. And I think a lot of the content that's being made is made to make it seem super cute and playful, and the TikTok girlies are making it look so, so tempting. But the thing is, if you already have summer decor and you already have Halloween decor, you're basically halfway there without needing to buy a single new thing. Just yesterday, I went to Walgreens to refill my son's expired EpiPen, and that was on August 12th. Today is August 13th, if you can see my phone. And while I was at Walgreens, I noticed that they already had Halloween decor out for sale. I mean, this is nuts. Like I said, I'm not trying to be a killjoy about this. I love summer. I love Halloween myself, but I also know that I get more joy from the experience of going out and doing things in the summer and things for Halloween, like trick or treating, for example, than I do having a bunch of plastic pumpkins or, random string lights in different colors that I have to store in a dozen plastic bins in my basement all year round. So consider this me de-influencing myself and you into enjoying the season without having to buy a bunch of themed clutter. Okay, if there are any viral products that you've noticed trending lately that I didn't mention in this video, be sure and drop me a comment down below and let me know what they are and your thoughts about them so that we can spread the de-influencing love. And while you're doing that, be sure and let me know if you'd like to see more de-influencing videos like this from me in the future. And in the meantime, you can go and check out one of these videos that YouTube thinks that you'll like, or I'll see you next week. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.